friends, we are back now on YouTube because the quality of my amazing videos was not as great on Flipgrid and we can't decrease the quality. So we are back to read the next session of Fantastic Mr. Fox. I left you on a bit of a cliffhanger there, as I sometimes do. We left off with Mr. Fox and 4 of his baby fox children digging almost like downwards and across, and then they came up. And when he came up, he found that he hit some floorboards. And when he came up, he started yelling, "I've done it, I've done it, I've done it first time. Come up, come see what I have found." And his kids scramble up, and I left you there. Now, some of you responded that you think he found something very important. You think he's inside one of the farmers' homes. Let's see where he ended up. The 4 small foxes scrambled up out of the tunnel, and what a fantastic sight it was that now met their eyes. They were in a huge shed, and the whole place was teeming with chickens. There were white chickens and brown chickens and black chickens by thousands. "Bogus Chicken's house, number 1, cried Mr. Fox. "It's exactly what I was aiming at. I hit it slap in the middle, first time. Isn't it fantastic? And, if I may say so, rather clever." The small foxes went wild with excitement. They started running around in all directions, chasing the stupid chickens. "Wait," ordered Mr. Fox. "Don't lose your heads. Stand back. Calm down. Let's do this properly. First of all, everyone have a drink of water." They all ran over to the chicken's drinking trough and lapped up the lovely cool water. Then Mr. Fox chose 3 of the plumpest hens, and with a clever flick of his jaw, he took them back with him instantly. "Back to the tunnel," he ordered. "Come on." So this is when they first came out of the tunnel, and they ended up in Bogus's chicken farm barn, number 1. Now, an interesting point that I want to bring up is Evan is just always ahead of the game, and sometimes I feel like he's secretly reading these books, but I know he's not. But he mentioned the route that he would take if he was Mr. Fox, and he said he would go sideways and then maybe come up out of the watchful eyes of the farmers. But the beautiful thing about building a tunnel is that most of the time, once that tunnel is built, it's there for good. So the fact that they ended up being able to create a tunnel that leads from their now destroyed home directly underneath the floorboards of Bogus's chicken, house number 1. That tunnel is always going to be there, and I don't know about you, but it's hard to know that there's a tunnel just under a floorboard if you don't know. "The quicker you move, the quicker you shall have something to eat." One after another, they climbed down through the hole in the floor, and soon they were all standing once again in the dark tunnel. Mr. Fox reached up and pulled the floorboards back into place. He did this with great care. He did it so that no one could tell they had ever been moved. "My son," he said, giving the 3 plump hens to the biggest of his 4 small children, "run back with these to your mother. Tell her to prepare a feast. Tell her the rest of us will be along in a jiffy, as soon as we have made a few other little arrangements." So one of Mr. Fox's sons, the oldest one, is going to be sent back with all of the 3 chickens to prepare a feast, but he says he has somewhere else that he needs to go. I don't know about you, but I think there's like 2 more farmers. Chapter 11, a surprise for Mr. Fox. For Mrs. Fox, I'm sorry. The small fox ran back along the tunnel as fast as he could, carrying the 3 plump hens. He was exploding with joy. "Just wait," he kept thinking. "Just wait till Mummy sees these." He had a long way to run, but he never stopped once on the way, and he came bursting in upon Mrs. Fox. "Mummy," he cried out of breath. "Look, Mummy, look! Wake up and see what I've brought you." Mrs. Fox was weaker than ever now from the lack of food, opened one eye and looked at the hens. I'm dreaming, she murmured, and closed the eye again. So she's feeling very weak. Sometimes if you don't eat, your body just gets really tired. And she's like, oh, I'm dreaming. You're not dreaming, Mummy. They're real chickens. We're saved. We're not going to starve. Mrs. Fox opened both eyes and sat up quickly. But my dear child, she cried, what on earth? Bogus Chicken's house, number 1, splurted the small fox. We tunnel right up under the floor, and you've never seen so many big fat hens in all of your life, and Dad said to prepare a feast. They'll be back soon. So this is Mom after she realizes those chickens are real. The sight of the food seemed to give new strength to Mrs. Fox. A feast it shall be, she said, standing up. Oh, what a fantastic fox your father is. Hurry up, child, and start plucking those chickens. Far away, down in the tunnel, and the fantastic Mr. Fox was saying, now for the next bit, my darlings. This one will be easy as pie. As we have to dig another little tunnel from here to there. To where, Dad? Don't ask so many questions. Start digging. Chapter 12, Badger. Mr. Fox and the 3 remaining small foxes dug fast and straight. They were all too excited now to feel tired or hungry. They knew they were going to have a whacking great feast from before long, and the fact that it was none other than Bogus's chickens they were going to eat made them chatter with laughter every time they thought of it. It was lovely to realize that while the fat farmers were sitting up there on the hill waiting for them to starve, he was also giving them dinner without knowing it. Keep digging, said Mr. Fox. It's not much farther. Look at this one's eyes. They're hungry. So it's very true. The farmers are still sitting at the opening of the crater that they built, and they're just waiting for Mr. Fox and his family to come out and be able to catch him then. But Mr. Fox is like, no, we're just going to figure something else out. So they're just almost waiting up there, and their farms, remember, are being completely unguarded. Okay, let's see. All of a sudden, a deep voice above their heads said, who goes there? The foxes jumped. They looked up quickly, and they saw, peeking through a small hole in the roof of the tunnel, a long, black, pointed, furry face. Badger, cried Mr. Fox. Foxy, cried Badger. My goodness me, I'm glad I found someone at last. I've been digging around in circles for 3 days and nights, and I haven't the foggiest idea of where I am. Badger made the hole in the ceiling bigger and dropped down beside the foxes. A small badger, his son, dropped down after him. Haven't you heard what's happening up on the hill? Badger said excitedly. It's chaos. Half of the woods has disappeared, and there are men with guns all over the countryside. None of us can get out even at night. We're all starving. Who is we? Asked Mr. Fox. All of us diggers. Oh no. That's me and Mole and Rabbit and all our wives and children. Even Weasel, who can usually sneak out in the tightest spots, is right now hiding under my hole with Mrs. Weasel and 6 kids. What on earth are we going to do, Foxy? I think we're finished. So what happened now is we're learning that it's not only Mr. Fox and Mrs. Fox and his kids who are now having to starve underground because they're afraid to come out. It's so many other families that are now suffering because of these farmers and because of these people being so vigilant to catch these animals and stop them from stealing their food. So now it's more people that are starving and more children that are starving, well, children animals. And now it's bigger than just Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox looked at his 3 children and he smiled. The children smiled back at him, sharing his secret. My dear old Badger, he said, this mess you're in is all my fault. I know it's your fault, said Badger furiously, and the farmers are not going to give up till they've got you. Unfortunately, that means us as well. It means everyone on the hill. Badger sat and put a paw around his small son. We're done for, he said softly. My poor wife up there is so weak, she can't dig another yard. So here, I'm yawning a bit. Sleep well last night. So here is Mr. Badger and his little son and Mr. Fox. They're kind of in a little bit of a fight here. Nor can mine, said Mr. Fox, "and yet at this very minute she is preparing for me and my children the most delicious feast of plump, juicy chickens." "Stop," cried Badger. "Don't tease me. I can't stand it." "It's true," cried the small foxes. "Dad's not teasing. We got chickens galore." "And because everything is entirely my fault," said Mr. Fox, "I invite you to share the feast. I invite everyone to share it. You and Mole and Rabbit and the Weasel and all of your wives and children. There will be plenty to go round, I can assure you." "You mean it?" cried Badger. "You really mean it?" Mr. Fox pushed his face close to Badger's and whispered darkly, "Do you know where we've just been?" "Where?" "Right inside Bowis's chicken house number 1. "No." "Yes. But that is nothing to where we are going now. You have just come at the right moment, my dear Badger. You can help us dig, and in the meanwhile, your small son can run back to Mrs. Badger and all the others and spread the good news." Mr. Fox turned to the small Badger and said, "Tell them they are invited to a fox's feast. Then bring them all down here and follow this tunnel back till you find my home." "Yes, Mr. Fox," said the small Badger. "Yes, sir, right away, sir." "Oh, thank you, sir," and he scrambled quickly back through the hole in the roof of the tunnel and disappeared. And that's where we're going to stop today. I have to wrap up because I'm going over my time, but the cool thing about this reading now is that it's not just Mr. Fox and his 4 kids. Now we have Mr. Badger, who is able to help us as well dig an even quicker tunnel. How do you feel about these new developments? Isn't Mr. Fox just so creative and fantastic? He's very sly and very, very smart. I'm going to ask you some questions on our flip grid. Make sure you answer them. I'm really excited to see what you're thinking now that we may have a little team. Let me know. Bye.